Want to save time, money, and your sanity while planning your wedding? Subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium on Apple Podcasts for early ad-free access to all weekly episodes. Plus, an exclusive bonus series that outlines exactly how to use ChatGPT to your advantage with dedicated meetings for customizing your budget, finding the perfect venue, hiring your vendors, and so much more. Save hours of time, avoid tons of wedding overwhelm, and make confident decisions faster. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts and start planning with clarity. Enjoy the show. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk all things wedding. I hope you're having a great week, and I hope you're excited for a big, full wedding Q&A episode. I have so many of your wonderful questions that we might have to split this episode into two parts. We'll see how it goes. Let's get right into it with our first question, which is looking for ideas for incorporating my fiance's two sons in our wedding celebration. They are 8 and 11 years old. This is very, very thoughtful of you to be thinking of as their future stepmother, and is a really beautiful way to express that you are all now uniting into a new family unit. So here are a couple of ideas. Quickly, I'm going to list them of some thoughtful ways to include them. You could include them in the processional. You could include them in readings. And that could be reading a verse, a poem. You could also have them each create their own reading. So give them a prompt such as what love means to me or what family means to me, and then have them share that during the ceremony. You could also have your officiant incorporate them into the ceremony with a short and simple yet meaningful vow or a promise from you to love and support them. They could walk you and their dad down the aisle, or just you, or just their dad. No rules there, just whatever is meaningful to you. You could also dedicate a reading, quote, or letter to them to be read during the ceremony. So this would be your letter to them versus my idea before where they are reading a letter to you. You could carve out space for a family dance during the reception in place of a first dance, or maybe in addition to. And you could also invite them to be a part of choosing some of the wedding day details. So for example, if you're having a kids table or a kids tables, you could ask them to help choose some table games, maybe a special dessert, something along those lines, just to make them feel included in the process. The most important thing here to keep in mind would be, and this is coming from me, I'm a mother of a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old. I would just reinforce that you respect their personalities and give them the space to experience their emotions in whatever way is natural for them, because this is a lot emotionally on their plate. And I think it's important that they don't feel like they have to perform in a certain way or react in a certain way to this new marriage. Congratulations to all of you, and I know everything will turn out amazing. All right, next question is about wedding day flow, and we have a really unique and fun wedding celebration that I'm going to outline here. So here is the plan for the reception. We are doing an outdoor casual adult summer camp vibe, which sounds so fun. They're going to have covered floors and roofs, but this is mostly open to the outside, so they are outdoors. They're not inside a building. They will have campfires going. The menu plan is to serve sliders during cocktail hour and then have a taco truck come on for dinner. And the question is, how can we make this casual vibe flow into the rest of the evening without being too formal? This couple does not have seating assignments. It's just grab your food and sit wherever you like. So they're asking, how do we announce our toasts, our dances, and they're also bringing in a surprise ice cream cart for dessert, and just some general recommendations on the overall flow and the timeline. What a fun experience-based reception idea. I absolutely love this. It sounds like it's going to be incredible. And what we're going for here is that your guests will enjoy this casual summer camp vibe without being confused about where they should be, what they should be doing, or what's happening next. So rather than thinking in terms of a very rigid traditional timeline, let's give everyone the freedom to kind of roam about and enjoy themselves while also always feeling informed about what's happening when and where. Now, I'm not sure how many guests this couple is hosting, but it does sound like everyone will be relatively in the same shared space. You'll want to set up a way to make announcements so that everybody can receive that information. And if your space is small and intimate enough, this could literally just be a designated person who's calling out reminders to guests at a few given times. And we'll get into that in just a minute. In keeping with your casual, laid back vibe, we're not making announcements that are commanding people to take their seats or commanding people to join us over here for the cake cutting or telling people to all move over here to listen to toasts. This is such a casual situation. There will be people roaming about. There will be side conversations, probably happening throughout the time. So as long as you can make a few strategic announcements, that's really all that's needed. For example, here is a very loose outline of a suggested timeline and itinerary of how you can structure things. So you have guests arriving. We start with a cocktail hour, and that's where your sliders are served and cocktails, beer, wine, whatever it is. Then we move into dinner, which is the taco truck service. From dinner, we will flow into your structured moments. So this would be toasts, first dance, cake cutting, whatever you want to include there. And then that's all going to seamlessly flow into your nighttime kind of hangout time where you have music playing, the bonfires, lawn games, etc. So what this would look like with timestamps could be guests arrive, cocktail hour is from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. At about 5:45, I would make an announcement that the taco truck is opening in a few minutes and just inform guests to find a seat or a bar table. Let them know there's no assigned seating to go wherever they feel comfortable. At 6 o'clock, the taco truck is open. People can get their food, mingle, spend time together. You can make another announcement here at 6 that just reminder, tacos are ready, no rush, grab one whenever you want. Fast forward to 6:45 or about 7 o'clock, so an hour after the food has opened. After most people have their food, make an announcement that you have a few special guests who want to share some words, a toast. Cluster these together right here. Don't spread the toasts out so that you're calling people back 2 to 3 times throughout the night. Have everyone go at the same time. And then if you are doing any other special traditions during your reception, such as a first dance or cake cutting or a unity ceremony or anything else, I would do that all here in a cluster with the toasts while you have everyone's attention. It is so much easier to hold their attention for 10 to 15 minutes than it is to call their attention for 2 minutes and then have everyone disperse and then do that again 3 to 5 times throughout the night. And then after those toasts, first dances, cake cutting, whatever it is, after that's done, then you can move one time into your upbeat music and let people know that the dance floor is open, direct them to the campfire area, direct them to the dancing area, direct them to lawn games, let them know you have late night snacks or the taco truck is still open. And then I would recommend announcing at that point that your ice cream truck is there for dessert and people can go help themselves to that. In closing, to summarize, casual weddings are so much fun and can be such a meaningful experience. Even though they're casual, though, that does not mean that you can just let everything, fall to chance and hope that everything happens. That's not a good plan. You do still need a confident MC, and this does not need to be a paid professional, but it needs to feel organized. So, whoever that person is that you want to designate to make these announcements, be sure that they have the right equipment. If necessary, they have a microphone set up where they can get people's attention. Make sure they have a time stamped itinerary and timeline of exactly what time they are standing up to announce what. And this is going to go such a long way in keeping everything organized and on track. So it kind of feels like we're saying two things at once. Like it's casual and laid back, but behind the scenes, you do need to have that structure because your guests are not going to be able to enjoy the casual, laid back experience if they don't feel relaxed and if they feel disorganized or anxious that they're missing out on something or that they're not in the right place at the right time or they don't clearly understand what they should be doing, then it's hard to relax and enjoy that. This overall concept is so much fun, and sending all my best wishes for a beautiful wedding celebration. Okay, next question. We are talking about first dances, and this listener has a fraught relationship with her dad, and she does not want to do a first dance. And she wonders, is it okay to cut the dances altogether? You are certainly not the first person or the last person to wonder if you can just skip this tradition altogether. And you have my full 1000% support to leave this tradition out, in addition to any other things that just don't feel right or don't speak to you. If it were me, and take this for what it is, you can take it or leave it. If it were me and I was going to not do a first dance with my father, I would recommend not doing any first dances. So, for example, if your fiance and his mom get up and do a first dance, and then you and your father don't do a first dance, that just invites a bunch of chitter chatter and gossiping and wondering what's going on and kind of highlights a negative moment, which I think we want to avoid doing. So if it fits with your situation and it fits with kind of what you want to see unfold, I would suggest just having no first dances at all. If that doesn't fit your situation, then you might need to do some further communication behind the scenes with your fiance and his side of the family and make sure everyone's on the same page. It's a tricky situation. I know it's easier said than done to talk about some of these things, and I am thinking of you and I hope everything goes well. Okay, next question. We're shifting to wedding photography. This couple is having a destination wedding in Belize in 2027. And I'm just going to read out the description of their situation straight from her note. So she writes, one of our close friends runs a wedding photography and videography business with her husband, and they are absolutely incredible. So, of course, the thought crossed my mind that we could have them shoot for our wedding. However, both her and her husband will also be in our wedding party as a bridesmaid and groomsman. On one hand, I think it would be so special to have them capture our wedding, and I know the photos would be beautiful and turn out the way I want. But on the other hand, I want them to also enjoy our wedding and not feel like they're missing out. I also don't know if it would even work logistically. I know she has a second shooter to help with other weddings in the past. So I thought maybe the second shooter could shoot the ceremony and then my friends could shoot the bridal and family portraits, etc. When we first threw the idea out to them, they of course said they would do it if we wanted them to and that it could be helpful for their portfolio. However, I can't help but worry that maybe they just don't know how to tell us no. And I know things could also get tricky and awkward when you mix friendships with business and money. All right, there is a lot going on in this situation. We have friendship, professionalism, money, expectations, and once in a lifetime moments, which is exactly a recipe for some less than ideal outcomes. So let's talk through this, and I'm just going to be very candid and straightforward. I don't doubt that your friends would create absolutely beautiful wedding photos, and I don't doubt that you trust them completely, but trying to create a hybrid situation where they are guests and members of your wedding party and working in a professional capacity, doing all of that to 100% of their focus and concentration, that is honestly not possible. All of those things cannot coexist. So let's talk through a couple of different angles. The first angle, if they are your photographers, then they are not going to be truly present as guests. Even if they only shoot part of the day and they have a second shooter there, and even though they say they don't mind, I'm sure they don't mind. I'm sure they would love to do it, but they can't be guests and a professional photographer at the same time. Ideally, you want your wedding photographers 100% focused on capturing your wedding day moments and not in the background thinking about standing at the altar as your wedding party, keeping their camera nearby in case they want to capture something, switching roles back and forth between photographer and professional, and then friend and support. It's just a lot to ask. So here's a look at how these options could potentially unfold. Option 1, if they are your full photography team, even with a second shooter, they're going to miss key moments. They will feel subtle guilt all day for not capturing all the right moments or for not being there for you 100%. They will likely feel confused about where they should be and where they should be dedicating their attention. And if anything goes wrong here, it risks the friendship. Option 2, where we have kind of hybrid coverage, where they do have a second shooter and they are also going to capture some of the moments. This sounds like a good compromise, but it's still going to be tricky. And the problems that I see here is just that switching mental gears and existing in two very different spaces in the course of just a few hours is really, really hard. Your guests are not going to know whether to treat them as vendors or as your friends. And you're just all going to constantly be aware of what you are missing. They are going to be aware of missing moments when they're in their guest mode, and you are going to be aware of them missing moments when you're spending time with them as friends. If it were me, I said that earlier in the episode, but I'm here to share my perspective. If it were me, I would hire a completely separate professional photographer. If your friends want to pull out their phones at some key moments and capture some professional eye shots, then that's awesome. But I don't think they should be burdened with the pressure of having their equipment and capturing the wedding and being guests and being part of your wedding party. I just think that's too much to ask. When you're newly engaged and wondering where to even start, one of the easiest first steps is your wedding website. With Minted, you can build a free wedding website designed by independent artists, so it looks elevated without the custom design price tag. Everything lives in one place: your story, wedding details, RSVPs, and registry links. It's simple, clean, and stress-free. Head to weddingplanningpodcast.co/minted to get started today and unlock exclusive listener perks on save the dates, invitations, and more. Okay, next question, shifting again, we're going into a question about DJs and MCs. All right, so this listener writes that she's currently stuck between two DJs that they cannot decide on. DJ number one has everything they want, but there are issues with the space that they need to set up their equipment. The reception area isn't very big, and we plan to use most of it for guest seating. The space that the venue has designated for the DJ doesn't work for them, and they need more space. Okay, on the other hand, we have DJ number two, and they have all the services they want, and this is the preferred vendor by the venue. But the problem with this DJ is they don't do an MC. So we have a DJ, and then we have the DJ's wife, and the wife is the MC. So you hire the DJ, and then you hire the wife, and then you have a DJ and MC. Just to clarify that. Okay, this note continues. My fiance and I met the wife, the MC, but we didn't feel a connection with her like we did with her husband. I'm worried that because DJ number 2 won't also MC, it's a red flag that I'll have to spend more money to hire another person to do this MC job. All right. So to start with, DJ number 1 is not really an option if your venue cannot accommodate their setup requirements. So I think we can cross that off the list right now. With DJ number 2, okay, so we have a DJ and we have his wife, and it sounds to me, this might not be like specifically laid out in black and white, but it sounds to me that if you hire this DJ, you will also hire his wife to do the MC. If you're not vibing with her and you don't want to hire a separate person, and that's even an option, you could always designate someone to be your MC and to make the announcements according to your timeline. However, I have a feeling, again, that the husband and wife come as a pair and that they would not love the addition of one of your guests on that DJ stand making the announcements. And having a professional DJ with all of his setup and equipment, and then just having one of your guests go up and make announcements, the flow of this just is not clicking in my mind's eye, to be very candid. So depending on your market and availability in your area, I would recommend that you keep shopping for someone who can act as both the DJ and the MC and who you click with in a better way. Next question is about having an adults only wedding. This is such a like hot issue that people feel so passionately about one way or the other. Confession, I spend time on Reddit just for anything under the sun. I'm not a huge social media person, but I do enjoy going to Reddit to get like very nuanced people's opinions and experiences about very specific topics. And so I'll browse the weddings boards every now and then. And you put up something about adults only, and it's got hundreds of comments, and it's just people feeling like complete opposite of the spectrum. So this listener wants to have an adults only wedding, but they keep hearing about people who cluelessly don't pay attention to invitations, websites, and bring their kids anyway, or become upset when they realize that their kids are not invited. And she wants to know, how can we be crystal clear about our intention that our wedding is an 18 plus celebration? So let's get into some of the ways that you can communicate your wishes. And to start with, you are setting a boundary here. So you do not need to justify why you want adults only. You don't need to justify why you don't want children there. None of that matters. What matters is the boundary that you are only inviting people who are adults to your wedding. A big mistake that couples make is to over-explain and or apologize for their decision, and that you don't need to do that. So resist the natural urge to explain yourself or apologize. So here's how you're going to communicate this, and you need to do all three of these things. So the first place is the invitation itself. And this is the most clear, important signal. You're addressing the invitation only to the adults invited by name. For example, Mr. John Smith and Miss Jane Smith. That part is very important. Somewhere on the actual invitation, put a note that says, please note this will be an adults only celebration. And you can put in parentheses 18 and up, 21 and up, whatever. The second place you're communicating this is on your wedding website. And I want this listed in at least 2 places and more if it fits. So the 2 places you're going to highlight this is the FAQ section. And you're going to put in a frequently asked question that says, are children invited? And your answer is going to be no, period. We've chosen to make our wedding an adults only celebration, and we hope this gives everyone the chance to relax and enjoy the evening with us. And that's it. No more explaining, no justifying, no apologizing. The other place you're going to call this out is on your welcome page or the details page, however you have your website set up, and put another reminder somewhere on there that says, kind reminder that our celebration is adults only. The third place you will highlight this information is on your RSVP cards. This is where we really filter out anybody who cluelessly has gone past their invitation through the wedding website and still doesn't get it. You are going to use full names on the RSVP card. You are not going to put blank lines. You are not going to put a blank option for people to fill in the number of people attending. And if you're doing digital RSVPs, then lock the RSVP so that it's only the invited adult names listed on the response. Now, are people still going to miss all three of these things or simply choose not to understand them? Yes, they likely will. So, because pushback is likely going to happen, and you're probably going to hear from somebody, if someone says, for example, oh, we didn't realize it was adults only. Your response is, I know it can be easy to miss. We're keeping the day adults only, but we can't wait to celebrate with you. Period. No explanation, no justification, no apology. If someone says we can't come if we can't bring our kids, then your response is, we completely understand and we will miss you if you can't make it. Period. Don't negotiate. Do not make an exception. Do not make an accommodation. And then last and worst case scenario, if someone shows up with a kid anyway, then I don't, honestly, I don't think this happens very often. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. The truth and the bottom line here is that people who get upset about adults only weddings are usually expressing anger at their personal inconvenience and not necessarily at your decision. It is your wedding. It is your right to outline who and how you want to celebrate. And people's emotions, like I said at the beginning, get really, really hot over this for whatever reason. And other people's anger and discomfort does not mean that you are doing anything wrong. People have adults only weddings all the time. I had an adults only wedding, and I'm not sorry that I did that. I have 2 children now. I've been to multiple adults only weddings. I've been to multiple weddings with our children. They are all equally enjoyable. The point is, it has nothing to do with me whether or not someone else chooses to have an adults only wedding. So please don't let other people's outrage and anger over that make you feel like you're doing anything wrong, because you're not. Okay, next question. Here we go. We did not send save the dates. We just sent actual invitations and RSVP cards 6 months early. People RSVP'd yes, but now that the wedding is only a month away, we've had multiple people back out and say that they can't come. Oh dear. Okay. The lack of save the dates is not a problem. Save the dates are not required to send. All right. So if you're early in your engagement and it feels excessive, it feels unnecessary, it feels like another expense, you wonder if you can do it digitally, whatever. A save the date is not a requirement. So that's not the problem here. What's going on is people back out of obligations that they have said yes to all the time. I would be willing to bet that most, if not all of us, have said, yes, we will definitely do something. And then as that time horizon shrinks and things change and schedules change and finances change and friendships change, That yes can morph into oh, sorry, we can't make it after all. All right. I think this is pretty common. So that's what's going on here. Even if you had sent save the dates a year ago, it doesn't matter. Life changes. Travel is so expensive right now. People's priorities shift. When you say yes 6 months before, some people, unfortunately, do not commit fully, and that does not make a binding commitment in their minds. I'm not justifying that behavior, just to be clear. I'm not saying that this is okay to say yes and then back out. I'm just kind of offering what's probably going on in people's heads. So, to be clear, what's going on here is that people said yes before they had fully, logistically thought about how they're actually going to make this a reality. So now that they need to book flights and request time off from work and request childcare, or family budgets are changing, some people are realizing that they can't or won't make all of that happen. And their yes from 6 months ago is simply not realistic today. That is very annoying, but it is not personal. So please do not take it personally. The way we can handle or manage this, and I personally always like having a very concrete plan. I like approaching it with a plan because this turns my mind off to emotionally driven spirals, and it gives me something positive to focus my efforts on. Given your smaller than originally anticipated guest count, you can make a list of to-do items and get very clear on these things. First, be very clear about your required minimums for venue, food, and rentals based on the contracts that you have already signed. Next up, you're going to contact your venue, your caterer, and/or rental company and make them aware of adjustments to your original guest count. You're going to find out from your venue, rental company, caterer, what's the drop dead date for final guest counts. When is that date? And look at it on a calendar. Doing these three things is going to focus your effort and energy on understanding which guest count changes actually cost you money versus what is just making you feel disappointed. So if you anticipated 100 guests and all of your contracts specify a minimum of 80 people, if you have 80 people, this is not costing you money. Is people flaking out and not doing what they committed to doing and not being where they said they would be? Is that all annoying and really disappointing? Yes, it definitely is, but you're not losing money on this. So that was, I don't think I read that part from the original question, but they were worried about this costing them money. So looking at it from that point of view, this is not costing you money. It's very annoying and it's very disappointing, but you're not out any actual dollars. So we just need to focus on now protecting your emotional sanity. And to do that, the one thing I can say is the people who cannot make it or don't want to make it happen or can't possibly make arrangements to make it happen, it is what it is. Giving grace and just dismissing it and refusing to focus negative energy on it is going to protect you in the long run. Now, a note on logistics. If you have people who are still on the fence and like, oh, it's going to be really hard to swing, we're still working out the numbers. We're waiting to see if Mark is going to get a big bonus in May. We're waiting to see if XYZ, whatever it is. You need to set a firm drop dead RSVP date and communicate that with 100% clarity. So, for example, we're finalizing our numbers with our venue on this date. Can you please confirm whether we should count you in or out? That's it. If they do not respond by that date, mark them as a no. To wrap this one up, we are going to mentally shift from being upset about those who flaked out on you to looking forward to celebrating with who's actually coming. You guys didn't do anything wrong, so don't beat yourself up over not sending save the dates or thinking that if you had done XYZ differently, you would have had a different outcome. Late backouts and cancellations are really common, unfortunately, and that can happen with or without save the dates. You cannot control other people, but you can control your thoughts and your boundaries. And last but certainly not least, with weddings, bigger is definitely not always better. And oftentimes, a smaller, more intimate guest count actually enhances the overall experience in every way. All right, moving right along, we have a listener who found a vintage dress for $40 and bought it. She's very excited about it, but feeling sad to miss the traditional dress shopping experience. She writes, I'm afraid if I go dress shopping, I will start overthinking the whole thing. And my response to you is if you love the vintage dress and you bought the vintage dress and you're happy with the vintage dress, but you feel like you're having FOMO about going actual wedding dress shopping, go ahead and go shopping. If you find a dress that fits your budget and you also absolutely fall in love with that, then it's not the end of the world to have two dresses. You could switch into one later in the reception. You could wear one to the rehearsal dinner, one to the wedding day. Bottom line, I don't think you need to sit agonizing over whether or not you should go dress shopping for the next 9 months of your engagement. So if that feels like something that really is important to you and you want to experience it, I would say go experience it and have fun. Next question is actually kind of a shared theme because I have two questions that touch on the same thing. So I'm going to kind of weave those together. And this listener writes, me, my fiance, and my family all want different things, and it's already feeling incredibly overwhelming. I feel like no one understands the actual cost of a wedding besides me. I want to elope and have a ceremony in nature with a very small celebration afterwards that's just immediate family and our best friends. Everyone else seems hell-bent on a more traditional wedding, and all I can see are dollar signs and adding up expenses, all for something that I don't even really want. I'll start by saying that you are certainly not alone. I think this is a more common feeling than people realize. And to start with, I would really focus in on what does your partner want and how can the two of you begin to form a shared vision that reflects the two of your top priorities. So to start with, remove family from it and really get on the same page about what the two of you want. If your fiance is wanting that big traditional wedding with all of the frills and bells and whistles and price tags, and you are wanting to elope and celebrate in nature, those are very different things. So step one is the two of you are getting married. And this is a celebration for the two of you. So step one is that the two of you need to get on the same page, if not perfectly, at least generally speaking, so that you can move forward with a joint plan. Every year at the beginning of the year, I do a series of episodes that I really design and gear towards people who are newly engaged. And a lot of couples who have been engaged for a while but just feel like they want a reset, I get feedback that they really enjoy those episodes. So to start, I would recommend going back to the series of shows that released this past January, and you're going to find lots of advice for creating your wedding vision, outlining your shared priorities with your fiance, communicating effectively, choosing the best vendors and venues, and so much more. Right now, no matter how long you've been engaged, if you're feeling unsure, if you're feeling like you don't have that solid vision and you're sharing the same vision with your fiance, then right now is the perfect time to press pause and just reset your whole process and to get started with a shared clear vision and a clear plan for the months ahead. Closely related to this feeling is a question from a mother of the bride. and we get to see a different perspective. So the situation I just read was from the bride's perspective. This is a completely different mother of the bride. And she shares that while her and her husband are very excited to help with their daughter's wedding, so making plans and arrangements, they are making some reasonable financial sacrifices to help financially. The bride, who's their daughter, is concerned that her parents are spending too much money and she just doesn't seem very excited or engaged with the process. And this very well-intentioned mom asks how they can make their daughter feel at ease so that she can enjoy her engagement and enjoy her wedding without worrying about the financial aspects. I'll take this opportunity to give all the moms out there listening a shout out and thank you so much for all of your love and support. As a mom myself, I know how many sacrifices emotionally and financially you make for your daughters and your sons, and I just want to say that we appreciate you. I suspect that what's going on with this situation that I just outlined is that the daughter has a set vision of what she would like to have happen for their wedding celebration, and that vision may not be in full alignment with what her mother and father are envisioning. Any support emotionally and or financially from parents, grandparents, any family is so generous. And I think in this case, a candid conversation with everyone involved, daughter, fiance, mom, and dad, that's necessary just to outline a set of shared expectations and boundaries. And I think that candid conversation, while not easy, will be really, really helpful and enlightening for everyone and get you all on the same page. Okay, friend, that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much to everyone who was in touch with your questions. If you have a wedding question on your mind, if you have a topic request for upcoming shows, I have an open door and I would love to hear from you. Take a look at the show notes when you have a hands-free moment, and I have a link there with exactly how you can be in touch and share your thoughts and questions. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again next week, same time, same place.